Hari Jaya. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachariyam Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachariyam Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachariyam Yamuna Tira Vanachariyam Yamuna Tira Vanachariyam Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya, Storu Shishimat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya, Storu Shishimat, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananti Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki. Naam Acharya Sajas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shervaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Jamana Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 22, text number 49. So the last line, the Y actually joins with the A there. So when we read it like that, as one word. Okay. Sometimes devotees pronounce things differently, but sometimes the words can be pronounced differently also. And the Devanagari is a little different from the actual translations. Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstihityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstihityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstihityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Vainyastu duryo mahatam samstityadya atma shikshaya aptakamami vatmanam mena atmanya vastitaha Word for word. Vainya, the son of Vena Maharaj. Prithu. Two, of course. Durya, the chief. Mahatam, of great personalities. Samstitya, being completely fixed. Adya Atma Shikshaya, in the matter of self-realization. Apta, achieved. Kamam, desire. Eva, like. Atmanam, in self-satisfaction. Mene, considered. Atmani, in the self. Avyastita, situated. Translation. Amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu was the chief by virtue of his fixed position in relation to spiritual enlightenment. He remains satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Remaining fixed in devotional service gives one the utmost in self-satisfaction. Actually, self-satisfaction can be achieved only by pure devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to desire, he is fully satisfied with himself. Similarly, a devotee who has no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as self-satisfied as the Supreme Lord. Everyone is hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction, but these can only be achieved by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. King Prithu's statements in previous verses regarding his vast knowledge and perfect devotional service are justified here, for he is considered best among all Mahatmas. In Bhagavad Gita 9:13, Sri Krishna speaks of Mahatmas in this way: Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim asritaha bhajantya anya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. The Mahatmas are not under the clutches of the illusory energy, but are under the protection of the spiritual energy. Because of this, the real Mahatma is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj exhibited all the symptoms of a Mahatma. Therefore, he is mentioned in this verse as Juryo Mahatam, the best of the Mahatmas. So it's quite an interesting purport by Prabhupada and the verse itself. I'll just read the translation again. Amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu was the chief by virtue of his fixed position in relation to the spiritual enlightenment. He remains satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. So if you have any questions, you could ask while I'm going along, because we seem not to have the time in the end, and there's too little time. So you can ask, just raise your hand and ask, and I will link it to the purport, and you could have more discussion on it. So the highlight of the verse, there's many points that were highlighted, but firstly, it's talking about pure devotees. And when we talk about pure devotees, they must be engaged in pure devotional service. That's what a pure devotee is. Like our devotion may be mixed from time to time. Sometimes we're enthused to do it. Sometimes we're not so enthused to do it. It's mixed. It's sort of mixed. And we may have some motivation, as I was explaining the other day. So the verse given by Rupa Goswami, which describes pure devotional service, Anya Bilasita Sunyam Jnana Karma Anavritam Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So this verse, when I first joined, I learned this verse. Somehow I learned this verse first. But I never got to this point of coming to this point as yet to rendering pure devotional service. So this verse is considered to be the Paribhasa Sutra of the nectar of devotion. And a Paribhasa Sutra means that the verse that governs the whole book. And Rupa Goswami, the translation is given in the Madhya Leela, a little different. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy, fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna as Krishna desires. Now, if you raise, the question could be raised that yes, we must serve Krishna according to Krishna desires, then how will we know what is Krishna's desire? That's the next question that could be raised. And it's an important question, because Prabhupada in his purport is talking about the Mahatmas, which we'll come to later. So, the first understanding of devotional service, or pure devotional service, is, your intention must be to please Krishna without any material pursuits or motivations. So our intention must be there to please Krishna. It's not that Krishna is incidentally pleased just by your activity, but our intention must be to please Krishna. So that makes the difference. Our intention has to be there. And there's elaborate description in the Nectar of Devotion. We won't go through all of them, but some points to note. That the devotional service must be for Krishna. It must be exclusively for Krishna. Like sometimes people think it must be for some other personality also. And Prabhupada writes in some parts of his purport that not even the other forms of the Lord. His expansions like that. So the term Krishna includes everything. It includes the Mahatmas. The name Krishna includes his paraphernalia. It includes everything. So Krishna is never alone. We don't find Krishna alone. He's always with his coward boyfriends, his coward girls, or his flute. They're all personalities. Must have his flute. So like once we were having a program in a Vishnu temple. It's a temple that I used to school. It's a very old temple, maybe like 80, 90 or 100 years old, and in Sikau Lake. And we took our deity of Krishna. We had our deities there, and the program was the Hindus from the Hindu society. And I'll raise the question, because they had a deity of Krishna, and why did we have a deity of Krishna? I told them, well, your deity is incomplete because it doesn't have a flute. So they were taken aback, So then the following year when I went, and they put a flute on Krishna. So yes, Krishna's expansions, and devotional service must be only for Krishna. But devotional service is an active engagement. It's anushilanam. We have to do it for the pleasure of Krishna. And we have to do it with body, mind, and words. That is the description given in the Nectar of Devotion. And it's an active engagement. And then how do we be involved in this active engagement? It's a question of parampara, and this is quite a topic nowadays, that they're following the parampara. Oh, should it stop by Prabhupada, or should it, does it go on? So the system of parampara and the way we get the information coming from Krishna is through parampara, from Krishna himself. Then Brahma, like that, coming all the way down, and then spiritual master and disciple, and it comes to Srila Prabhupada. But then, also Prabhupada had disciples, and they initiated also, and their disciples are initiating others, and it'll go on like that. You see, an acharya cannot be appointed. Like the question I was asked the other day, who's the next acharya from Srila Prabhupada? I reckon, well, an acharya is never appointed. An acharya emerges. He's not appointed. He emerges. So like that, we get this knowledge, and then we actively engage in devotional service in the line of in the spiritual line. So it must be favorable also, anukulena. Beside active engagement, it must be favorable. Just like I mentioned, devotional service is just not intended to please Krishna or incidentally please Krishna, but our whole intention is to please Krishna. So therefore the Mahatmas, they act on that level, and that makes the difference. And when we say, well, it's a very far-fetched thing, very, very high, lofty requirement to achieve, but no, that is the goal, to become a pure devotee. Now, Prabhupada gave different definitions of what a pure devotee is. A pure devotee could be somebody who just follows the instructions. He just joined the temple and he follows all the instructions. He's a pure devotee. Somebody who's just following the spiritual master is considered a pure devotee. But we know that purity has different levels. And it takes time to come up to that level. So, your devotional service must be favorable. So how do we know it's favorable? How will we know that? Just like, the demons are also giving Krishna some service. Krishna wants to fight. But are they engaged in pure devotional service? Yes or no? Yes, Jai Prabhu. Yes. Correct. Correct, yes. Thank you for that. So, sometimes, Krishna may be displeased with your service. Like thinking of Krishna, like for the demons, like Kamsa and Hiranyakasipu, they came with that intention to please Krishna. You could say in the one sense, they came to please Krishna because he wanted to fight. But then, when you come into the material world, you get covered and you become demoniac and you develop these bad tendencies. So, initially it was like that, they came to give some pleasure to Krishna, but really it cannot be considered as pure devotional service. On the other hand, sometimes we see actions like Mother Yashoda, leaving Krishna and attending to the milk, and Krishna was upset. She went to attend to the milk on the stove. And the question is raised, is that pure devotional service? That's the other point. Is it? Yes or no? Yes, why? Why is it pure devotional service? So she was attending, anyway, she was attending to the milk on the stove. And the acharyas explain that the milk on the stove is a personality also. And that milk on the stove is thinking, well, if Mother Yashoda continuously serves Krishna, then I won't have that opportunity to serve him. So it's good. Then the next question could be raised, well, Krishna was displeased with the whole act, and which is more important? Which is more important? The milk on the stove or attending to Krishna? That's the next question. So which is more important? And devotees have different views. We should attend to Krishna. Mother Yashoda should have attended to Krishna. And people give different points on this. But the main point is that the milk on the stove is, that person, the devotee, is more important than the Lord. is more important. And that's what the purport says. He's talking about the Mahatmas. The Mahatmas, the great souls, are more important because they are the agents. Hare Krishna. Sri Raghunath ki. They are the agents. So the pure devotees are the agents of Radharani. Because this verse, Mahatmanastu Mampata Devim Prakritim Asrita, is dealing with the divine energy. This is the verse of Radharani. But Prabhupada in the purport, when he concludes the purport, he's talking about 7:14, Devi Esa Guna Maya, Mammaya Durachaya. Mamevaya Prapajante, Maya Metam Tarantite. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. And when when one surrenders unto Krishna, then he can easily cross beyond it. So he quotes both verses, but he just paraphrases it in the end. So one is, the person is under the control of Durga Devi, and the Mahatmas under the control of Radharani. So one has to become a Mahatma. And one has to, when you're rendering pure devotional service, you become happy, you become pleased. But going back to that point, that the devotee is more important. Just like, for example, if some devotee falls down and he collapses here and you're doing the arati, what will you do? Will you continue the arati and you're the only person? Will you continue the arati or will you attend to the devotee? My question. Attend to the devotee. You have to attend to the devotee. There was a case like that where Malati's daughter had dunked her hand into some chutney and she got burnt. And they were going to, they was preparing to offer to Krishna. So what was the first thought of a devotee? Oh, we can't offer it. Isn't it? That'll be the first thought. That's the normal thought for most people. We have to be honest about these things. Right? So, but she got burnt. And then this, we can't offer it. But then Prabhupada heard about it and he immediately asked, about a hand, she's got burned, take it to the doctor. That's the right thing to do. Attend to it. Attend to the burn. So there's higher and lower principles, and one must learn the higher and lower principles from the acharyas, from the Mahatmas. Like for example, you have to break your fast on Ekadasi, and you got 1 minute to break your fast, and you're on the altar. You're on the altar. Now are you gonna go outside and break your fast and come and do the puja again? No, you're not going to do that. So that's a lower principle. So one has to, and these things you can only learn from somebody who's practicing and living this. It's because it's not directly put into the scriptures. The details are not directly put down in scriptures. But how one assimilates it, that only a Mahatma can do, a great soul. So yes, so like that, it's explained, that the devotee is more important. Aradhanam Sharvisham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tasmat Paritim Devi Tadyanam Samarcharanam. Of all the types of worship, the worship of Vishnu is highest. But higher than the worship of Vishnu are those things that are related to him. And the devotee, we started off explaining that Krishna includes the devotees, the paraphernalia and everything. So like that, and a pure devotee, he's free. He's not after, karma or jnana or no, just speculative knowledge. He's free from fruitive activities. Anya bilasita sunyam. He's free from ulterior motives. So many things. Just like sometimes we we do astrology. And sometimes it may be necessary in certain areas. Sometimes I advise people to do it on the basis of like listening to their material problems, and they may have some faith in it. But a devotee generally don't worry too much about astrology. Doesn't worry too much about astrology. So, we just focus on rendering pure devotional service. There's so many things could be said on the definition of pure devotional service. I was just stressing on it because Prabhupada is speaking about pure devotees in this purport, Mahatmas. And somebody who's like constantly engaged in hearing, chanting, is absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So we can conclude that yes, this is pure devotional service. This is what we are meant to be doing, and engaging in devotional service all the time, and in a pure way. So that self-satisfaction, the points in the purport Prabhupada speaks about self-satisfaction. And it's only attained by pure devotees who have no material desires. It just came to my mind earlier on. I was thinking about that sometimes we may think that we have served the society for so long and we have some entitlement. That I should be taken care of, this should be done for me, that should be done for me. And this is a very, important point to note, because I had this realization. Dayasindu was meant to take me to Richards Bay. And I had this realization then when I was reflecting as I was going along, because there were so many challenges to get there. And whilst I was going, then I was thinking it could be easier. It could have, somebody could have helped me or something. But then I was thinking about, sometimes, because I've been a long-standing devotee myself, so then you think, well, you need better facility. But that is against pure devotional service. Because you cannot, have entitlement to anything, because there's some motivation. So if if one thinks like that, and sometimes we do that, we have this thoughts, oh yes, I should be treated like this, I should be treated like that. And in the material world, you're going to be treated, even, badly, whether in the, outside in the material world or within spiritual institutions. You're going to have challenges. But you have to rise above that. So a pure person is not affected by these things. So yes, so we be self-satisfied. He doesn't have any material desires. He's fully satisfied. Doesn't mean he's desireless, but he's always desiring to serve Krishna more. And because he has this desire to serve Krishna more, therefore there's a peace of mind and fulfillment. He's feel very peaceful because he's executing it in a very pure way. Then the nature of a pure devotee. His inner satisfaction that mirrors the Lord's own self-sufficiency. And such devotees are very rare and exemplary. Like I was on the campus the other day, and with Keshav Maharaj came that day, and one person saw me, and he just came and we started speaking. And he was reading a book, The Purpose-Driven Church. And The Purpose-Driven Church it's written by a Christian organization, or a Christian author. And this guy said he was reading this book, and then he started talking. He was thinking, what you into? So I was just telling him that we are monks, we practice spiritual life. Here's a monk here, he's standing right here. Keshav Maharaj was right there. I said, here's a monk. You can see. But he noticed that we were bright. And he said, how do you all do it? So, And then, he got attracted to this process. And he's just a student. He just got attracted. He comes from a Christian faith also. And Keshav Maharaj just spoke to him a little. But he couldn't make the talk. But he came towards the end of the program because he had a lecture on. And then he went to Maharaj and he started speaking. And I'm standing there. And I told him, this is the person we met outside. And he started speaking to him. And it was so wonderful, that exchange. And you know what the guy was talking about? How to become free from lust. That was his questions. And Keshav Maharaj, again, this fellow was the best person. But he took my number, but he somehow he's supposed to give a missed call, but I didn't get, and I lost track of him. But I'm making the point that people are attracted to people who live this. It's not that you know a lot of verses and philosophy people are attracted to. Because anybody can, learn this, he can recite it and speak it. But people are really attracted to your qualities. And this is what Prithu Maharaj is, as the ideal devotee. Although he had, vast knowledge, but he had perfect devotion. So therefore he is described as a Mahatma in this purport. The way he lived his life. A true Mahatma. A true servant. A true great soul. And what are the characteristics of a Mahatma? And we mentioned that, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport, quoting that verse 9:13. That's Radharani's verse. Just like 6:30 also is a verse that could be, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. You know that verse, Jai? So that verse also could mean, about the gopis. They all, everywhere they were looking for Krishna in separation. So yes, so this verse where one is not deluded by the illusory energy. He's under the divine protection, Devi Prakriti, spiritual nature, and he's exclusively engaging in devotional service. So what are the symptoms of a great soul? The symptoms of a great,
against all odds, she remembered Krishna the last moment, and there was absolute rescue for her. So the same, we should not ever forget our faith and devotion in all different circumstances, good and bad.
Thank you for that, yes. Yes, we should have faith, yes. That's a good point. Thank you, Daisindra Prabhu. So a great soul, he's not just angry, because they are friendly to everybody. Because he's following the principles, actually the 4 principles are important that what makes one, get one free from sinful life. And this is the first test of, the following the regulative principles. You're coming to that platform of pure devotional service. Because you must have clean habits, sadachar. There must be good habits, clean habits. So Prabhupada in one conversation, he was talking about Mahatma Gandhi. And when I was in school, I was very attracted to this. I think Jai also probably, on Gandhi. We heard so much of Gandhi and we really appreciated him. But he was involved in politics. So at one point he designated one of his disciples that he should run for presidency. And this is but by public votes. But another person, Subhash Chandra Bose, was elected president. And Subhash Chandra Bose was the person who drove the British out of India. He was quite somebody. So Gandhi was very angry that his disciple did not attend. He was very upset and he didn't attend that Congress meeting. So Prabhupada says, he went away. Now see, these are to be studied. He was actually a very good man, Mahatma. But this is not gentleman. This is not a gentleman. He should have accepted when public has elected the other man as president. So this we can learn sometimes when somebody is elected by public, by vote. Okay, we don't have much to do with politics, but if they accept it, we should accept it. So that's what Prabhupada was saying. Why shall I interfere with it? It's not against gentlemen's principles. So, I nominated somebody that he should be president, but public did not like him. They elected somebody else, so why should I interfere with that? And Prabhupada said, if you depend on public vote, then whatever public has elected, you have to accept. So it's quite an interesting thing. But then he quotes another verse from the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada is quoting, from the, I think it was from the sixth canto, yes. Shushila Sadvo Yatra, Narayana Parayana. And this verse, it says, the path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualification is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by Shastras. So when one becomes clean, then his thoughts are clean also. When one is, being purified in the process, then there's no fear on who becomes the leader or the controller. He's not afraid of it because he's pure. See, like sometimes we're afraid who's going to be the leader of the country, of the institution. But when you become pure and when you become clean, you're not afraid of these things. Yes. Then it talks about protection by the spiritual energy. You are protected. You can't rubber stamp a Mahatma. Because a Mahatma, after many births and deaths, what's that verse? 719. Bahunam janma namante gyanavan mam prapachate. After many, many births, he is actually in knowledge, surrendered unto me. And such a great soul is very rare. Very, very rare. After many births and death. So a Mahatma is not rubber stamped. He's not just like busy like 90% in politics, 10% in some reading of the scripture. But it's the converse is true. It's the other way around. And the description of a Mahatma is given. Also, he has to have knowledge also, but he gets knowledge by serving Krishna. That's why that verse, Gyanavan mam prapajite vasudevam sarvamiti. He gets knowledge. Knowledge. And he is, he's a sadhu. And a sadhu, a saintly person, has good control of his senses. And sometimes people don't know who a Mahatma is, a great soul is. Like sometimes you go to these holy places in Vrindavan and you have many saints there. And it's best not to, because you don't know them. And sometimes Bhakti Mataji knows that, where she stays, there's a whole crowd of people are waiting to see Premananda Maharaj. And he's a saint. It's not that we're following him, but we can be respectful to him. Yes. So what does a saint, what does a Mahatma do? How would you know a person is a Mahatma? He's always chanting the glories, endeavoring with great determination. That's the next verse from 9:13, 9:14. Is always, this is how you know somebody is a great soul. Always chanting my glories, bowing down before me. So his only business is to glorify Krishna. So that person is considered to be a pure devotee. And devotional service as the highest goal. That is the next point that comes out, or the last point that I wanted to mention on, is the ultimate means to achieve spiritual realization, spiritual peace, freedom from illusion, from the purport itself. So we were speaking about the agents. Sometimes the agent may appear to be covered. Like, we could say, you would say the spiritual master knows everything. But it's not like that. Like sometimes Prabhupada, in the sense that at least one incident that I'm recalling is that when they were building the Jew temple, their attorney, Prabhupada's attorney, was on the opposition side, and he didn't know about it, and he was saying, how was this possible? I couldn't really get it. So you can't say he knows everything, because sometimes Krishna may cover him for different reasons. And then another time somebody asked him, because there he says, one who has a bona fide spiritual master must know everything. It's also there. That's also mentioned. He must know everything. But then somebody raised that question to Prabhupada, whether you know everything. He said, well, no, but Krishna tells me. Krishna tells him. So like this, he may cover the devotee sometime, but that does not mean it still means that he's a pure devotee. Because sometimes when we hear these type of things, we say, oh, maybe he's not a pure devotee. He's not a great soul. How could he have not known? So we have to be careful. And then the interesting thing about the Mahatmas or the great souls, and we're talking about our spiritual preceptors in our line of disciplic succession. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and coming all the way down to Prabhupada. That sometimes I'm just waiting for it to finish. We're talking about coming under the control of the divine energy. And sometimes, Radharani herself may direct the soul to a particular Mahatma, a particular spiritual master. And in the case of Narottam Das Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur had a dream. Actually, it's not proper to speak while we're speaking. Narottam Das Thakur was directed by Radharani herself, and he had a dream that, Radharani came in his dream and said, tonight I will be, making some nice milk preparation for Krishna, and I will arrange some service for you. And then, Radharani told him that, well, you will have to serve under Champakalata, because she boils the milk. And by boiling you could serve under another authority. So you can see that that authority system, that structure also exists in the spiritual realm, that you will serve under somebody. Like you would serve under Mahatmas, under great souls, under the Acharyas here. Then when you go to the spiritual world, it's the same thing. So Radharani is saying, well, you can help Champakalata to make the milk. So I'll make that arrangement for you. So then, he was in deep meditation, and then, but in any case, when he had that, when he got this information, he didn't go and broadcast it to the world. He went for confirmation to his spiritual master. So that's another important factor, in a devotee's life, or important aspect in a devotee's life, that he confirms things. Because sometimes I hear people have, different ideas about spiritual life, and without any confirmation, they take it out and put it in social media like that. But anyway, Narottam Das Thakur, and his spiritual form was revealed. That is a Manjari. So like this, then he started, in his deep meditation, he was boiling the milk, and then he's putting wood in the fire. And at some point, he got burnt. His hand got burnt. And then when he came to external consciousness, his hand was burnt. But his hand was burnt, but he didn't go and say, hey, you know what, I was boiling milk for Radharani, and I was doing some puja on the altar, and then my hand is bent. He wasn't doing that. Because that's out of humility, You don't go and you don't do such things. And these are things that we have to learn about ourselves as a devotee. So like this, but the people knew that he was involved. He was in a deep meditation. He was in the pastime of Radha and Krishna. But he was still under the guidance of the Mahatmas, the great souls. So we'll stop here. If any comments or questions, we have a few minutes, we can take some. Yes, Ujjwala Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful lecture. I just wanted to find out, Krishna is self-satisfied, and we can assume that he's self-satisfied, to an infinite degree. So how do we then add to that satisfaction through our devotional service, or diminish it? Because I heard you mention that there's sometimes unfavorable devotional service where we don't please Krishna. So how do we then diminish the pleasure of one who is already infinitely pleased?
See, the thing is, the point is, that's a good point, because see, Krishna is self-satisfied. Just like, your father may have everything, or your mother may have everything, but for Mother's Day you give her a sari. She may have 50 saris already. Which one she'll like best? The one that was given by the child, to the mother, she'll appreciate that more, even if it's something simple. So Krishna is like that, he accepts anything small, and he makes a big thing out of it. But the very important point about that infinity is that every devotee renders a service, pleases Krishna in a way that no other person can do it. So each individual, because we are individual souls, and because we are individuals, what pleasure I can give Krishna, you can't give. So it's very important that therefore Krishna is waiting for us to come back, because he is missing that pleasure or that service that we meant to give him. So then you'll think, then what is it, that service that we meant to give him to satisfy him? So that comes again, we come back to the point, we come back to the spiritual master, the Acharya or the Guru, or a group of mature devotees will say, "Oh, Ujjwala, you should come and live in the Hare Krishna temple in Chatsworth." Something like they will be able to figure it out. So you may not be able to know how to please Krishna, but the spiritual master may know. Just like, I think Brahmananda I heard him saying it, I was present when he was saying it. He said that, Prabhupada said, he read the Bhagavad Gita and it said, you must work for Krishna and then you must offer the results to Krishna. So he thought, then he's telling Prabhupada, how do you do that? Then Prabhupada said, you give me the money, I'll offer it to Krishna. You go work. You see? So therefore you have to have the spiritual master, and then he can figure out how you can please Krishna. Because Krishna's satisfaction is never ending because he's the Supreme Lord. And we are also, we are eternally fragmental parts ourselves, and we're part and parcel of Krishna. So being part and parcel of Krishna, we have the minute qualities of Krishna also. So we can please him under the guidance of the spiritual master. Just like I'll give the other example, there was sometimes envy creeps in, because I raised the question of Prachar Maharaj. Sometimes devotees, I asked, how would you know that Krishna is pleased? And he said, by the devotee, that was an obvious answer, I knew the answer, but I expected something more. Then I said, what if the devotees are envious? What if the devotee is envious? Then he said, this movement is for non-envious people. But sometimes envy is there. Like in one instance, there was a devotee, they were husband and wife, and they were not into sewing, they were doing some other services, some practical services, but then they were told to make a skirt for Tulsi Devi. And the wife stayed up all night and made the skirt. And then when they put it on, the president reckoned, what a bad job. And the ladies, they were crying because they tried their best. So they tried their best, but the president was not pleased. Then Prabhupada walked in and he reckoned, what a lovely dress. So they started crying again. So it's quite interesting that some people may not be satisfied with what you do, but does not necessarily mean that Krishna is not satisfied. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Prabhu. My follow-up question would be, when we look at, let's say, Hiranyakashipu, how would we then determine that his service was unfavorable or his devotion was unfavorable? Because it almost seems like he was fated to fight with Krishna.
Yeah.
And so Krishna is just fighting with him or killing him as a pastime. So how do we then say Hiranyakashipu offered unfavorable devotional service versus favorable?
You see, the thing is, the intention initially, as I explained, the intention, because Krishna wants to fight. So if Krishna wants to fight, he has to fight, with his devotees. So they may have committed, it's a whole thing, they committed that offense and then they came down to this material world. But when you come down to the material world, you get covered by the illusory energy. You come under the control of the material energy, Maya. So that's what really happened to them. So that's how it becomes unfavorable. Just like once Prabhupada, was being cheated. He's, in Mr. Price. Mr. Price was cheating them in America. He took the money and they were buying a property and he took the money away. Mr. Price took the money away and cheated the devotees. The devotees were cheated by this man, So then he said, then the phone rang and Prabhupada picked up the phone and said, oh, Mr. Price, I was just thinking of you. I was just thinking of you. And then after Prabhupada put the phone down, then the disciples asked Prabhupada, were you really thinking of him? He said, yes, just like how Kamsa was thinking of Krishna. In an unfavorable way. So he was thinking of him in that way. So the thing is that they go back to the spiritual world. They also go back to the spiritual world after their service they did. That was like a service they had to do for Krishna. That was part of their service, to be covered. But then for the lessons we learned from that, we can't think like that. We have to, the lessons we learn, that we mustn't be demonic, we mustn't be envious. Those are lessons for us to learn, for us to go back to the spiritual world. Those are special cases, how they came down. It's a whole, it's nice if we can do a seminar on it, how they come down, and yeah, it's just quite an interesting. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Jai Sachinandan.
Thinking about Hiranyakashipu, he performed great austerities even pure devotees couldn't do. But all their austerities was for his own selfish motives.
Yeah,
and
that's
Krishna,
it.
and Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktaram Jagya Tapasam. We have to make him the beneficiary of whatever austerities, and then that is favorable. So
Yeah. See the austerities, that's a good point. Bhaktaram Yagachasparsam, that verse, yeah. We have to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. And but Hiranyakashipu engaged in a lot of austerities. That's why I said that you could see it's Devi, you're in the divine energy, but when they came to the material world, they got covered. So when you perform austerities, you're doing things for yourself. You're self-motivated, engage in lots of austerities, but the whole goal is to satisfy yourself. So it happens to anybody, because remember, a living entity is marginal. He can go either way. He's marginal. He can go either in the spiritual side or in the material side. It's like the beach. Sometimes the water covers the sand, and then it goes back into the sea, recedes, and then the sand becomes more prominent. So it's like that. So like once Srila Prabhupada initiated, he was initiating sannyasis, and sometimes they fell down. Then the question was raised that, why did you initiate them? They're going to fall down. So he said that the spiritual master puts the disciple in the best possible position for advancement. So sometimes we may give a person sannyas, but he may not have that. He may make it, he may not make it, because we are marginal. And sometimes people do fall down from the process. But what's the harm if they did the service? What's the harm? They make some advancement. Does it make sense there? So it's quite interesting, yeah. There's so many things we could speak about, but the time is, I took 4 minutes extra. I checked my time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. That watch is fast. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.